Hello, welcome to Basics of Finite Element Analysis. Today what we are going to cover is stuff related to weighted integral residues, and we will try to establish as to why we have a need for these weighted integral residues or weighted integral errors. So, that is what we are going to talk about, need for weighted integral residues. So, let us consider this equation minus d over dx a, it could be a function of x times du over dx plus u equals 0, and this governing equation is valid for this domain. You should note that in the domain I have not included the boundary points. The governing equation is valid only in the domain, and domain does not include boundary points. And the boundary conditions are u is equal to 1 at x is equal to 1, x is equal to 0, and x times du over dx at x is equal to 1 is 0. So, this is a boundary value problem, because I have specified conditions on both the boundaries. Okay. In boundary value problems, we have to know the conditions on all the boundaries. So, let us say that we assume a solution, and here we are not going to break it up into small elements. We are just considering the whole domain as one single element. So, we assume a solution for the entire domain. That is 0 to 1. So, these curved brackets means that the domain does not include the endpoints. Okay. If it was a rectangular bracket, then it means that the domain includes the endpoints. If it was a rectangular bracket on left and curved bracket on right, then it includes 0, but it does not include 1. So, this is some convention, and we say that u is approximately equal to some un, some function. And what is un? It is a function of Cj phi j x plus some other function phi naught. So, I am just assuming it, there is no reason that I have to have this form, but this is for illustration purpose. J is equal to 1 to n, okay. And here Cj are unknown constants, okay. Phi j are assumed functions known, and actually we assume them. So, these phis are known and actually assumed functions, okay, and same thing of phi of x. So, known. And we choose, and when this is happening, we choose these functions such that BCs are satisfied. So, we choose the function such that the boundary conditions are satisfied. Why do we choose it like that? Because this governing differential equation, it is not valid on boundary conditions, right, and we will be anyway plugging this into here to ensure that the governing equation has to be satisfied. So, that work we are going to do anyway. So, while we are choosing the function, just we have to make sure that these functions satisfy the boundary conditions, because we are going to ensure that the governing equation is going to get satisfied anyway later. So, we have to choose it such that boundary conditions are satisfied. So, let us say, so that is what we will do. So, we try with n equals 2. So, we will choose two functions, okay, and this is what we choose. Phi of x is 1, which is a constant. Phi 1 of x is equal to x square minus 2x, and phi 2 of x is x cube minus 3x. So, my u n x is what? 1. So, I will use this equation, I am going to use this equation. So, it is 1 plus C1 x square minus 2x plus C2 x cube minus 3x. So, this is our equation. Now, we see whether this function meets the boundary conditions or not. If it does not meet, then we do not go further, we go and pick up another function. So, BCs, first BC is u is equal to 1 at x is equal to 0. So, we put x is equal to 0 in this entire function and it is satisfied, right. The second boundary condition is that x du over dx at x is equal to 1, what was it? This is equal to 0, right. So, we differentiate this equation and then multiply it by x. So, we get x times C1 2x minus 2 plus C2 3x square minus 3, and the value of this at x is equal to 1 is, when we calculate, it comes out to be 0. So, both the boundary conditions are satisfied. Okay. Now, what we do is, now we do not know value of C1 and C2, right, we do not know these values. So, we have to figure out these values. We have made sure that the boundary conditions are satisfied. So, the way we figure out is that we plug this equation back in the ordinary differential equation and then see. So, we plug this back in the ordinary differential equation and develop conditions to calculate C1 and C2. So, that is what we do. So, we put un where n is equal to 2 in ODE and develop conditions for finding C1 and C2. Okay. So, so what I will do is, I will not do the detailed math, that is fairly straightforward, but I will write the result. So, what I get is that my final equation is 0 equals minus 2 C1 minus 2 C1 minus 3 C2. This is the constant term associated with x plus minus 3 C2 minus 6 C2 plus C1 this is the term associated with, excuse me, x square plus C2 x cube. So, I have 3 terms related to this independent variable x, and then a constant term 2 C1 plus 3 C2 plus 1 is equal to 0. Okay? Everyone understands how we can get this equation? All we are doing is putting this expression for un in the partial differential, in the differential equation, and when we plug in all that and do the math, I get this equation. Now, this ordinary differential equation is valid for the region 0 to 1. The domain is 0 to 1, right? Domain is 0 to 1, right? Which means that this ordinary differential equation has to be satisfied for what range of values? For all possible values between 0 and 1. For all possible values of what? For all possible values of x, right? The domain is x is between 0 and 1. So, it has to be satisfied for all possible values in the domain that x is between 0 and 1. Now, that can happen only if this term is individually 0, right? If this term is individually 0, and if this term is individually 0, and if this term is individually 0. Only then it can be true for all possible values of x, otherwise it is not possible. That is the only thing. So, from that, so now I have what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 4 equations. How many unknowns are there? There are 3 unknowns. Okay. We will write down these equations. So, C2 is equal to 0, I get from the cubic term. Then from the quadratic term, I get minus 9 C2 plus C1 is equal to 0. Then from the linear term, I get minus 4 C1 minus 3 C2 is equal to 0. And then from the constant term, I get 2 C1 plus 3 C2 plus 1 equals 0, right? Which means this gives me C2 is equal to 0. When I plug in here, I get C1 is equal to 0, right? And then this is satisfied. But what about this equation? It is satisfied or not? It is not satisfied, right? So, and so what this shows is, so then we have to now go back and maybe figure out some other function, because this function does not satisfy the ordinary differential equation. It satisfies the boundary condition, but it does not satisfy the ordinary differential equation, right? So, that is the problem, and so this is the problem we run into if we try to solve some of these equations, and this is a relatively simple equation. It is a relatively simple equation, but we are having a little hard time solving this equation in an exact way. Okay. So, that is the reason that, and if these conditions are not satisfied, what does that mean? That the error in the differential equation will be non-zero for some range of condition, for some conditions, That error is also known as residue. In the remaining part of the course, we will use this term residue a lot. Error is because it is what is left, it is also known as residue. So, that is the thing. So, because of this problem, we say okay, we may have a problem in getting exact solution is problematic. If these conditions were satisfied, then error would have been 0 at all values, for all values of x, in the range 0 to 1. If they are, right now they are not being satisfied, which means for all values of x, it is not possible for me to get a 0 error. So, that is why exact solution is problematic. So, I say okay, I am having problems with getting an exact solution. So, I will stop worrying about it. I will say that okay, instead of having residue is 0 for all values of x, to get exact solution, I will say okay, I will not worry about this first statement. Rather what I will say is, I will multiply my residue R x and I multiply it by some weight function. And I had discussed this earlier in last week also, I am again repeating it, and then maybe next week we will actually look at the mathematics, why do we multiply it by weight function. So, instead, so what I will do is, I will integrate this error over the domain which is 0 to 1, and an integral sense, not in a point by point sense, but in an integral sense, the residue is 0 in an integral sense, and it is not just an integral sense, but it is weighted integral of residue is 0. Weighted integral of residue is 0. First thing, intuitively you can look at it, that if now I use this approach on an element, then this weighted integral of residue on small elements, if it is 0, then chances are that it will become slowly very close to accurate, because on every small element the weighted integral is 0. So, my solution will approach to 0 situation. And this W is actually a function of x. In this case, it is a function of independent variables. In 2 dimensional, it could be a function of x and y. In 3 dimension, it could be a function of x and y and z. Okay? So, this is a function and it is called a weight function. Okay. Now, we had two conditions, we had two unknowns, right? C1 and C2 are unknowns. C1 and C2 are unknowns. So, what I do is, I get one equation if I multiply this, if I use this equation, we assume some weight function W1, I will get one equation from here. Then I assume another function W2 and I get another equation from here. So, in that way I get two equations and two unknowns. We will do that math very quickly. So, we assume that W1 of x is nothing but a constant. So, I assume it is x, and when I do this and I plug it in this equation, and how do I calculate residue? I calculate residue by plugging this equation in the differential equation, because it is not being exactly satisfied, there is a residue. So, I put that residue here and I get one equation, and so my first equation is 0 to 1, weight function is 1 times residue of x dx is equal to 0, and from this the relation I get is 8 C1 plus 15 C2 is equal to 1. So, this is the first equation I get. Then I assume another weight function. Now, there is a method for picking these weight functions, we will discuss that later. So, I pick up another weight function, and here I just say that okay, it is a constant x. Okay. And from this I get second equation 0 to 1 x times residue of x dx is equal to 0. But here I am saying x, the weight function is same as x. This is the assumed form of weight function. Okay. No, x is position, x axis is position. So, weight function if I plot in this case, it is like this. Okay. In this case, if I plot weight function with respect to x, it is like this. So, from this I get another equation 15 C1 plus 31 C2 is equal to 10. Now, these are two equations mutually independent with two variables. So, I can get the value of solve for C1 and C2. Okay. This method of applying weight functions, multiplying weight functions to the residue and then integrating the product over the domain. See, this is my domain, dx is the domain. If it was a 2D surface, then my domain would have been dx times dy, right. So, this method is known as variational method, and you will learn about this later, a variational approach. Okay. Now, there are different variational approaches, and what they differ in is how do you pick the weight functions, the choice of weight functions, different methods. But the overall method is same, that you find the residue, multiply it by a weight function. In an integral sense, you make the error 0 in an integral sense, not in a point by point sense, and then you apply different weight functions. So, you get different equations. If you have n unknowns, you multiply it by n weight functions. There is a logical way of finding these weight functions, and then you get n unknowns, n equations, assemble at least on the. So, here we had done the mathematics for the whole domain. In finite element, we do it element by element, same method. We find residue for each element, multiply it by weight function, integrate it, get equations at element level, find all the element equations, assemble them, apply boundary conditions, then solve it. That is the thing. So, this is called variational method, and there are different, as I mentioned earlier, different ways to pick up weight functions, and that is why there may be several flavors of variational method. So, this is brings us to the conclusion of this lecture, and we will continue our discussion next week. Look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Thanks.